It's day 2 of the basketball transfer portal, and SMU is not in good shape.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU here on this Wednesday on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Grayson Singleton. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. And if you're new here, welcome and subscribe to the channel as well. Would love to have you be a part of this crew. Coming up on the show today, could football be in a better place in the margins? I'll explain what I mean by that. Plus, SMU now has a big need, and big is a play on words when it comes to that. We'll talk about that to close up the show. But with the NCAA portal in its second day, the departure of Samet Yigitoglu now has SMU's roster in a pretty unenviable position right now. It's in bad shape. The SMU basketball roster is in bad shape. Now, this does not mean that SMU can never dig itself out of the situation that it's in right now. But as it stands at 7:41 Central Time on April the 8th, this is a roster that's in bad shape. All 5 starters are gone from last year. And you knew 4 of them would be gone because 3 graduated and 1 is out of eligibility. We knew that. So you didn't have a lot of margin for error. But with Samet gone and Mitchell Robinson gone, or Mitchell Holmes, been watching too much NBA. Mitchell Holmes is gone. Chance Puryear's gone. You've already got 8 dudes in the transfer portal, along with Sam Walters. 8 guys from last year's team are in the portal. You are returning hardly any production. I mean, Jaden Toombs and Jermaine O'Neal Jr. are the only guys that contributed last year that are returning, and they're rising true sophomores. So you're in a bad spot because you need everything. You need big depth, and you need bigs, number one. You have to replenish all your wing production. You have to replenish defensive production for whatever that's worth from SMU last year because this team didn't really play defense. You need a point guard. You need a scorer. You need shooters. You need quality guys coming off the bench. You need to rebuild this team. And can Jaden Toombs be a cornerstone player? I believe Jaden Toombs is a good player that can get to be an even better player. Going to be quite honest with you, I have no idea what to make of Jermaine O'Neal Jr. right now. At this moment in time, he looks like a decent role player, but I don't know about much more than that until he shows me more on the basketball court. But you don't really have a cornerstone player to build around. Don't have a point guard. Don't have any shooters, really. I mean, O'Neal can shoot it a little bit, but again, limited opportunity. You're in a bad spot. And sure, you've got a rising Billy White, and we'll see what he can give you next year. You got Cam Lomax coming in. But you've got to hit the portal extremely, extremely hard. And for the fans, I know this is going to be a little bit of a wonky roller coaster that SMU basketball is going to continue to putting us through. And that is because they're turning over the roster again. And sure, you got a bunch of guys that you knew were going to be out of eligibility. Like that was the sword you were going to fall on heading into last season. But you counted on Samet Yigitoglu wanting to continue his development here. Maybe Mitchell Holmes staying around. It didn't work with Sam Walters. I'm not going to blame anybody really for that. It just didn't work. But you're doing this all again. And when you have to rebuild rosters like this, sure, there's a lot of upside. There's a ton of upside to that. Look at Michigan, the national champions. I mean, you brought in, Mara was a transfer. Lindeberg was a transfer. Cadeau was a transfer. Burnett was a transfer. McKinney was a true freshman. I mean, there's some upside to it, sure, especially if you're going to shell out the dollars to do it, but it's a roll of dice. If you don't know what's going to be happening year over year, and you're bringing in a bunch of new guys, and you've got to get them all to assimilate together and play as one, not just as a collection of individuals, but as a cohesive unit, sure, it can work, but there is a floor. I mean, we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that. There's a very high ceiling for it, depending on the quality of guys you get, but there also is the possibility that the whole thing crashes and burns. And SMU is going to run that gamut once again. It's going to be interesting. And I think I did a segment a couple of weeks ago talking about this will be another year of replacing a decent amount of production from this basketball team. That now with Samet Yigitoglu gone, this season's even more daunting than last season at this time in the year. It's a really precarious spot that SMU is finding itself in. And again, the Mustangs made the NCAA tournament. The ACC, aside from the real top of it, that being Duke, seems pretty wide open. I mean, it was losses in the margins to teams like Cal and Clemson and NC State that had SMU in the last four in versus, being a 9 seed, maybe even 8, right? So the ACC is so wide open. And if you look at what's happened in the ACC this year, Hubert Davis got fired and was replaced by Michael Malone, which we'll see how that one goes. Will Wade ditched NC State to go back to LSU. Markel Brown is in the NBA draft now, so we don't really know what Louisville's going to look like. Can Clemson keep this up? Brad Brownell's a good coach, but we'll see. The ACC's wide open, with a lot of room for fluctuation. The only team you really know what you're going to get is Duke. And what are they going to do? Run it back with a whole new crop of freshmen again? At some point, that's got to backfire. I mean, granted, we've been saying that for 15 years. But it's not as if SMU is falling down an abyss and can't get themselves out of it. But as it stands right now today, as we're recording this is a really weird spot. You're going to have to replace all 5 starters. And we don't know from there. We don't know. They're going to get dudes. We know that. But can you have success turning over a starting 5 like they're going to do? Again, Michigan showed you what the ceiling can be. Now, I'm not saying SMU can be Michigan, but that is the ceiling. There is high upside to a transfer-heavy starting lineup. There is. There is also a floor to it as well. So, with what SMU's about to do, what I want to prepare fans for is there is a ton of variation in what can happen. Really good, really bad. I don't think SMU is going to be really bad unless they just get a bunch of bad players. But we'll see. But there is a lot of room for what could happen in this SMU season when you have to do roster turnover like the Mustangs are doing. All right, coming up next, let's go to football, because could they be better with some of the margins that cost them heading into last year? We'll talk about that on the other side as Locked On SMU continues.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA women's basketball national championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the show, Locked On SMU. I'm Grayson Singleton. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new here on the YouTube. Those of you on audio, what's going on? Salute to y'all. Hey, make sure you tap in with our Everydayer Club as well. Get Locked On SMU ad-free with the Everydayer Club plus members-only Discord access. Join at lockedonsmu.supercast.com or at the link in the show notes. Okay, the football team could be better in the margins. And in Power 4 football, when you're talking about competing for ACC championship games and a spot in the college football playoff, sometimes it's the margins, it's the little details that are either going to set you up for success or lead to your demise. And there's two ways I think that SMU can be better here. One is penalties, and one is special teams, which we have not really talked about at all this offseason. So as we continue our position room breakdowns, as we go through the offseason, I want to talk about special teams, particularly kicker here. And the kicker this year is going to be Nick Reed, a transfer in from New Hampshire. He'll be a junior this year. And a pretty decent career. He's made 78% of his field goals over the course of last season with New Hampshire. 30 for 31 on extra points. So, accurate kicker. Not the most accurate, but he's a solid kicker with a big leg. Kicked a 52-yarder last year, so he certainly has some range. But like all of you, it ain't like kicker can get any worse than it was last year. I mean, holy smokes. That situation was wild. I mean, we started off the season thinking Colin Rogers was going to be all ACC kicker, and that crashed and burned so fast. 1 for 4 from field goals. Sure, he made all his extra points, but I mean, after that Baylor game, he said sayonara. And am I putting that a little flippantly? Probably. Because both sides said, you know what, it's best we go our separate ways. Sam Keltner ended up becoming the kicker. So that's how that ended up. But it was a disaster for Colin Rogers. And then Sam Keltner was only 14 of 20 and ended up transferring to my alma mater, Oklahoma State, which I'm not really sure how I feel about that. But nevertheless, the kicking game was an abject disaster last year. 1 for 4 in field goals of 50 plus. 6 for 11 from 40 to 49 were both Keltner and Rogers. And that's just not going to cut it. That puts way too much pressure on your offense to score touchdowns. That's just not good enough. That needs to improve. And with Nick Reed coming in, who I'm guessing is probably going to kick in better environments than he was kicking late in the season at New Hampshire, I think is going to be a welcome addition. It's going to make the team better. It's going to give the offense breathing room as to how many first downs they need to get on every single possession. And plus, if Nick Reed can turn into a very good kicker in the Power 4, all of a sudden, what if you get turnovers on the plus side of the field? You might be 5 yards away from an automatic 3. So I'm looking at this addition and I'm saying, okay, I see how this makes SMU markedly better. And I think it will make SMU markedly better. And an example of how a kicker can really turn a season, and I'm not saying Nick Reed is going to be the next Tate Sandell, but if any of y'all were big fans of college football in a macro perspective, Oklahoma went on a run where they beat teams late in the season that, quite frankly, I didn't think they'd beat, covering this team. And they had a kicker by the name of Tate Sandell, who came in and hit 8 of 9 field goals from 50 plus, 8 of 9 field goals from 40 to 49. And Oklahoma would not have been in the college football playoff had that not happened. Tate Sandell saved that season. So I'm not saying Nick Reed is going to go 8 of 9 for 50 plus, but having a leg that's capable of it and having a reliable kicker can certainly make you better in the margins. So that's the first way SMU gets better in the margins. The second way they get better is they've got to cut down on these penalties. And this is heading into my second year covering the team. And coming off of 2024, it was a pretty incredible feat that they made the college football playoff with as undisciplined of a team that they had. I mean, shoot, it was bad. And then you go into 2025 and you almost duplicate the same thing when it comes to the penalties. They find themselves on the wrong end of the spectrum when it comes to penalties per game. I believe they've been over 8.5 the last 2 years, or approaching that. They've got to fix that. Now, a lot of the players committing these penalties are no longer with the team. You know, it was sometimes undisciplined play by the defensive line, holding calls from Savion Byrd, things of that nature, right? Those guys are no longer on the team. You didn't have a whole lot of, pass interference penalties, even though sometimes with how as bad the pass defense was, you probably could have preferred it, especially because they're not spot fouls like they are in the NFL. But nevertheless, the penalties have continued to be a problem in the Rhett Lashley era. And with the changing of the guard that this team underwent, you look at new left tackle, you look at entirely new defensive line. I think that's going to be an area where they are better in 2026. Plus, you look at Rhett Lashley, and there are some very pointed things that he's got to get better at. And I think that he knows he's got to get better at. And his team not having as many penalties, especially back-breaking penalties like they had, I think he knows that has to be one of the goals that has to be on the top of the priority list. It's got to be up there. So I think if you're SMU, that's an area where they get better as well. Because if they can cut down those penalties, and I'm not saying limit yourself to 3 penalties a game, because I'm not really sure how realistic that is. But if you can be in the 5 range, if you could be in the 6 range, I mean, shoot, that's 10, maybe 20 yards of field position that you saved yourself by not making unforced errors. So I like where SMU can go if they can do that. But I think if they improve there and they improve in the kicking game, which I think they will with Nick Reed after last year's disaster, then SMU, I think, is going to be an even better team in the margins, which could lead to an additional win or 2 that they otherwise would not have gotten. And in a 12-game regular season, boy, that's huge. That could be huge. So the better teams are always the ones that are good in the margins. I think SMU can be one of those teams this year because I think they get better at kicker, and I think they get better in the penalty game. By the way, one last thing. 3 different players for SMU attempted an extra point last year. Coming up next, SMU's big need. Yeah, you guys all know that's a problem too. SMU's got a big need in basketball. We'll talk about that to close up the show next. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check those boxes. It's less stress, less time, with more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed-sponsored job. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and clear swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Welcome back to the show. We'll close up Locked On SMU here on this Wednesday, talking some basketball yet again. And SMU has a big need. And by big need, I mean they're not going to compete in the Power Four if they don't get this center situation figured out. Because SMU had three guys who were 6'9" and, 6'10" and above last year. I guess Sam Walters. Surprisingly, by the way, who knew Sam Walters was 6'9"? Just throwing that out there. Anyway. SMU had three centers last year. Let's call it that. Three centers. Samet Yigitoglu, Jaden Toombs, Mitchell Holmes. Two of those three are gone. And we haven't really heard definitively if Jaden Toombs is coming back. I'm going to assume he is until we hear that he's not. Again, the Jaden Toombs situation, mentioned this yesterday. The Jaden Toombs situation is a no news is good news type of situation for SMU. So, two of the three are gone. We know very conclusively, just by watching the ACC or watching the NCAA tournament all the way through the Elite Eight, that you are going nowhere if you do not have quality bigs and probably more than one of them. So the Mustangs need to go get a quality big. Now, I'm working to put together a list of some of these bigs that I think SMU could reasonably make a run for, but they're going to need to drop some coin on this. I would implore SMU, do not cheap your way through this. Go spend some money. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in all the results you see. And I know you're not Michigan, and I know you don't have the basketball recent history of UConn, but you got to go to the portal and pay for bigs if you want to compete. If you are serious about winning, you have to go get quality bigs, especially after you lost one in Samet Yigitoglu, and somebody's serious about winning because somebody's going to give that dude a bag. And I think he's going to help somebody. I think he's going to help somebody a lot. So the teams that are serious about winning, Michigan went and got Mara, UConn went and got Terrace Reed. Illinois assembled the tallest basketball team in the country. Arizona has recruited bigs and has been able to retain them. That was the Final Four. Duke was in the Elite Eight. They had solid bigs via retention and recruiting out of high school. You got to have bigs. There's no way to skirt around it. You cannot skirt around it. It is as concrete a rule as ever. You got to have quality bigs. And SMU's got to go, if they need to drop $1.5 million on a quality big, Go drop $1.5 million on a quality big. Do it. You weren't able to retain the one you had. And we all know that the laws of economics in college sports is that it's going to be more expensive to go to the portal than to retain your own. We all know that. And I don't know what the figure is going to be for Samet Yigitoglu wherever he lands. But all I know is if SMU's got to go drop $1.5 to $2 million, please go drop $1.5 to $2 million because we know SMU is not strapped for cash. But they are saddled with a need right now. So if your basketball team is going to get better, it's going to have that. Now, here's what can happen, and I'm curious to see if SMU can pull this off. If Jaden Toombs continues his development and becomes a floor stretcher, and you can reasonably leave him in as a 4, and you can go get you a certified 5, okay, now SMU might have something. Like, now the Mustangs might have something if Toombs can become a guy that can operate on the perimeter, space the floor, and now you just drop a 5 in there. Okay, now I like where we're going here. I really do. Especially if that 5 is a game changer one way or another. And look, I'm not looking for a center who can average 13, 14 a night. I mean, if you can, great. But can you be a pick and roll lob threat? Can you have soft touch, catch the ball, and be a rim protector? If he can do those things, I like where SMU can go. If we can get a center that can be some equivalent to, let's just say, I was going to say Jackson Hayes, but he's not a rim protector. Derek Lively, right? What Derek Lively has turned to with the Mavericks. A pick and roll lob threat, can hit a bunny hook, and can block shots. If he can turn into that, I'd feel pretty good. Because with Jaden Toombs, if he continues to develop, you're not going to need a 5 that can shoot the 3. Now, you would love it for sure. Don't get me wrong. I'd love a 5 that can knock down a trailing 3. But if you look at SMU's deficiencies from last year, Samet wasn't really a lob threat. I'd like to have a lob threat. And I'd like to have a dude who can block shots and is a stud rim protector. Because that way, if your perimeter defense stinks again, then you have an eraser on the back line. So that obviously is contingent upon Jaden Toombs continuing to shoot the basketball at a threatening clip and him getting better. But that's the upside there. The upside there is that you could potentially pair the two. But as it stands right now, they need 1 and really 2. They need 2 bigs that can really go out there, because otherwise it's going to be hard to compete. It's going to be really hard to compete in the way that SMU wants to and SMU should if they don't have those. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here on this Wednesday. Appreciate you all making me your first listen of the day. I'm Grayson Singleton. Hey, make sure you check out the Everydayer Club as well. Ad-free shows and members-only Discord access at lockedonsmu.supercast.com, or click the link in the show notes to learn more. For those of you on video, we'll send you to Locked On Podcast Network's 24/7 national YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On College Basketball. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow for a Thursday show. Appreciate you guys.